You could paint the city green tonight. The New York Jets take down the New York Giants by a 13-10 score in overtime. It was dramatic. Yep. It was a thriller. It had a little bit of everything. Eric Gallen here inside our studio with Quincy Anunwa soon. Well, there he is. Anthony Becht with us right off the bat. Yes, fellas, that one might not be one for the ages, but I think we'll remember it for a long time.
Definitely. I think they better make sure the Empire State Building is green tonight. That's all that matters. You know, the Jets won. That's what you want to see. You know, they always talk about what colors are going to be. I think it needs to be green. The Jets pulled it out. It was a tough, gritty win. You know, it's not what you want to see. It's not what the fans came in and paid for, but it's exactly what they needed.
Anthony, I'm going to need help with my heart tonight. Listen, late in that game, it did not look good for the Jets. 10-7, Brian Daboll elects to go for a field goal try. Graham Gano misses it. Zach Wilson has less than 30 seconds on the clock, but he gets the Jets in position for a game-time field goal from Greg Zuerlein, and then they got the job done in overtime.
Yeah, it was nasty. It made your eyeballs red. You know, you had a lot of curse words to talk about, a lot of emotions throughout the game, but you're right. Like Quincy said, a win is a win. You'll take it, and you got to move on. You got to get much better. But I will say this at the end of the game. It's interesting how when it kind of opens up and you need something, you spread it out a little bit. Zach's able to get two big passes completed, make plays down the field. The offensive line's able to hold up just enough to make those plays happen. And quite frankly, this team was dead for naught. I mean, you know, you're talking about 24 seconds to get this off. And you really want to thank the defensive offsides on the first one because you got that huge chunk. You got Thibodeau that jumps off sides, and that really triggered the clock from being a moving clock at that point,
right,
and running up to having to clock it to actually getting it to stop, and then to clock it on the next play. Again, just a phenomenal job. I didn't think they were going to get it off, guys. I'll be quite honest with you. 1 second left. Xavier Newman, I got to give him a lot of credit. Centers, I got to think he didn't really know what to do in that situation. And I watched him, and he was trying to grab the ball and get ready to snap it. But the official has to set the ball first. So it was actually a hot potato back to the official. Then the center grabs it, and they still get 1 second left on the clock. I mean, again, guys, sight for sore eyes, but you'll take it in dramatic fashion at the end of the game.
Yeah. How about Zach Wilson? Just a few weeks ago, guys, we're talking about him not getting the ball down, spiking the ball at the end of the first half against the Denver Broncos. Here today, 24 seconds, no timeouts. He gets the Jets in position for Zuerlein to get on the field. He boots it, and then in overtime, you're talking about the defense stands up again, forcing a 3-and-out, and Wilson converts a couple times on third down. There is the 3rd and 10 conversion for 11 to Garrett Wilson up the sideline. Then on 3rd and 5, he goes to Malik Taylor, a practice squad elevation the day before, and that sets up the 33-yard game winner in the fifth quarter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at Zach Wilson is showing improvements. He's growing. This isn't the game that you're going to look back and say Zach Wilson had the game of the century, but he did what he needed to do in the end, and that's what you like to see. Fast tempo, 2-minute offense. He performed the way he needed to. He got the ball to the guys he needed to get to, and that's what you want to see from your starting quarterback. Just make the plays, put the ball in the playmaker's hands, and that's what he did.
Hey, listen, AB, you talked about Xavier Newman before. This was a battle of attrition today. The Giants lost their starting quarterback, who is their backup quarterback. Tyrod Taylor goes out in the first half. He's replaced by a Don Bosco alum, a Jersey native, in Tommy DeVito. So that changed their entire offensive approach. I mean, they lost Darren Waller like a couple series into the game. And then the Jets at the center position, I've never seen anything like it before, fellas. Connor McGovern goes down. Okay, Joe Tippmann was inactive today, and he would be the guy who would slide over. He didn't play because of quad injury. Then Wes Schweitzer moves over from guard. He goes down. And all of a sudden, AB, you mentioned it, it's Xavier Newman hiking the ball to Zach Wilson. That's your 4th-string center. This is a guy who came up yesterday, and you're hoping that he doesn't take any snaps. Nothing against X. But with that being said, hey, listen, the show goes on.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Zach and X have actually had a conversation prior to this game
Right.
with him jumping onto the football team. I listen, it's incredible. I'm going to give you the old coach speak. Next man up, man. Like,
Yeah.
if you're dressed on game day, you got to be ready to go. You got to be able to come out and at least hold the fort down. You don't want anything exceptional. You don't want tragic mistakes. They did have the bobbled snap, but listen again. These guys hadn't done anything together. I give the kid a lot of credit. He actually played good. He protected well. He fought. I mean, it's a lot to ask for a guy that's on practice squad. Okay, so I just think that it's a heck of a job. I think early on, though, guys, before all the injuries happened, the one thing that was glaring yet disappointing to me was the trenches. Okay, I thought that the defensive line for the Giants really came out with a purpose today. And if you want to run the ball and you want to enforce yourself as an offensive line, you got to come out and set the tempo. And it's an attitude. The Giants chose to come off the ball and just come at them versus the Jets not quite really feeling it. I'll tell you, there's a hell of a push early on in this game where the running game couldn't get sparked and Zach Wilson didn't have a lot of time in the pocket. And you saw the strip sack that happened. And on the flip side, a Giants depleted offensive line who came out and was able to run the ball effectively when they couldn't pass the ball. So, again, a lot of hidden factors, a lot of things that happened in this game. I just think that you feel fortunate as a football team that you're able to get that chance at the end of the game and you're ready for the moment. Because like Zach Wilson said in his interview, it's only one or two plays sometimes that make the difference in a football game. And those last couple plays and that special teams missed kick by the Giants, those are the elements because of the fact that the game was so atrocious that it was close enough for them to make it and have a chance to win it at the end.
All right, but there were a few pretty plays today, including Breece Hall's catch and run that went for 50 yards. That was the Jets' first quarter touchdown in 13 games. Caroline Hendershot talked to Breece the Beast after the game.
Here with running back Breece Hall. Breece, not the prettiest win for the Jets, but you guys were able to get it done. What ended up working for this Jets in the last 2 minutes and in overtime?
Just strain and grit. Still believing that we could win the game. The defense, they were giving us, great field position. They were stopping them all night, and personally, I just feel like the offense, we just got to be better. But we stuck together, and in the end, we came out and got the win. So it was great. It was great.
You personally get that 50-yard touchdown at the end of the first quarter. Walk me through that play. What did you see on that play that opened up the field for you?
Just knowing pre-snap that Zach's probably going to throw me the ball, and I kind of see where the linebackers are at, so I know where I'm going to have to make my move at, and then I get in the open field and just let my natural ability take over.
And this offensive line, not having Wes Schweitzer, not having Connor McGovern, what about the resiliency of this offensive line?
Yeah, guys had to come in and just, they had a great D-line, and guys had to come in and put their best foot forward, and we did that. We had some struggles, but, we kept staying together, we kept pushing, and we got the win.
Jets win. How does that sound?
It always sounds great.
Thanks, Breece.
Breece Hall today, 6 receptions, 76 yards. You see the 12 rush attempts. He was held to 17 yards. There's a big discrepancy, gentlemen, Quincy Enunwa, Anthony Becht, in terms of what these teams were able to do on the ground. Anthony Becht was just talking about that before. Quincy, 22 attempts, 56 yards, just 2.6 yards per carry for the Jets. The Giants, they ran 52 times and still were able to get 203 yards despite them taking the ball out of Tommy DeVito's hands.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley was really playing inspired football. When everybody else was down, you could tell he really wanted to make sure that he put the team on his back. They kept giving him the ball. He was making guys miss left and right. It's something that the Jets offense just wasn't able to perform and do on the other side. Obviously they had the injuries, but like AB said, from the very jump, they just weren't able to bring the force to the Giants defensive line. I'm trying to consider maybe what can the Jets do to start fast, because that's been an issue for them throughout the whole year. I think back when I played, I used to take 2 shots of C4. Thinking back now, that's probably way too much caffeine. It turned me into a madman while I was playing. But maybe this is what these guys need, right? Some kind of injection of energy, something that can get them going from the very beginning of the game. Because, obviously we love these games that are coming down to the wire and they're finishing strong, but we would also love to see these guys finish fast, and that'll be great for this team.
AB, any experience with C4? I'm a black coffee guy myself.
No. No, I not see. You know what? We had the what was it? It was a 5-hour energies, and I didn't feel real good after the game after I drank those. But they did give me a little burst. I almost felt like I had to lean on it, but I didn't really know what it was doing for me. You know, look, I'll say this about the offense of the Jets. Right now, you got multiple different linemen playing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so anything you practiced or did in training camp that you thought was going to be your identity running the ball, I really think you got to step back and look at the running game and say, how do we do this differently? You know, I can give you an example. Just when I was coaching this year, we were having some trouble running the ball. We worked on a lot of runs heavily throughout training camp into the season, thinking these are going to be our staples. But you know what? Things change. And I think just for me, packing the box, getting a bunch of guys in there, maybe sometimes you just got to re-look and revamp it just a bit. It's not going to be hard because you haven't run the play or you haven't been in that look of formation. I just think sometimes you just got to look at it and say, hey, is it easier for us to be in 13 personnel and try to cram it down their throat, which, again, I'm all for 13 personnel.
We know that.
They're not getting yards running the ball out of that. Or, maybe we mix it up, spread it out a little bit, okay? Maybe get in 11 personnel or something where it's not as compact in the box and let Breece get to the second level. You got to lean on Breece Hall. It still aggravates me to death, guys, that I actually see Breece Hall on the sidelines on the game at any given series. I just don't. This is a guy that doesn't get tired. So to me, he needs to be fed the ball, and I think you got to be a little bit more creative in what you're doing. And it's not just like making stuff up that's never been done before. It's about doing the same runs out of different personnel and formations to see if it works. Because if you're not getting anything out of it in these other personnels because you want to tough out their defense or you want to grind them out, all that stuff's great. But if you can't do it, you can't do it. I don't know if we got those kind of guys up front heading into the next game. So I really want to see what that change looks like, or we're just going to try to continue to hammer a square peg into a circle and just, okay, eventually Breece will pop one, because I just think at this point, you got to help everybody out. You got some linemen that need help, that can't do things, that are limited in certain aspects of their game, and you got to make sure you can make it work. And you got all the way till Monday night to figure it out. So I think it's going to take the ability for these guys, for Hackett and his staff, to come up with a plan where they can be most efficient with the players that they have.
Interesting points there. Now, you're talking 13 personnel, 1 back, 3 tight ends, 11 personnel, 1 back, 1 tight end. Okay, but I have to say this offensively. We know what Breece can do, but how about Garrett Wilson and how much of a gamer this kid is? Yeah. When the Jets needed a play late to get that drive going, the game-tying drive, it's Zach Wilson to Garrett Wilson. Then in overtime, it's 3rd and 10, and the guy's getting interfered, Quincy. He still comes up with the play, makes a monster reception that covers 11 yards.
Yeah, I mean, the guy, we say it every week, wide receiver number 1. I mean, this play right here is amazing. That's amazing concentration. For a young guy to go out there knowing that the game is on the line. I think it was 3rd down as well. Everything is on the line right there. I have to make this catch. There's a guy draped over me. They may not throw the flag because sometimes you never know which way the refs are leaning. They might go wherever the wind is blowing. So you have to make that catch, and he does that, makes the catch, gets the first down for his team, and it continues to be a leader. He's not a very vocal guy in terms of, like, you seeing a guy, like, really yelling and stuff, but he's a guy that makes the plays with his, he leads with his play, and he continues to do that week in and week out. He shows up and brings the other guys with him.
Not a lot of points at MetLife Stadium. Graham Gano started the scoring with a 31-yard field goal. Breece Hall countered for the Jets, and then Tommy DeVito's 6-yard run at the beginning of the 3rd quarter. That stood for a long time, but from there, Greg Zuerlein took care of business, and the Jets went home a winner. Let's bring in Ethan Greenberg from MetLife Stadium. Greens, you talked about the offensive line shuffling before the game. Unfortunately, that story got longer and longer, multiple chapters here at MetLife today.
Yeah, felt like 2022 in terms of the Jets' offensive line today, in terms of just the shuffling up front. You think about Connor McGovern gets out. Wes Schweitzer moves from right guard, who was starting for Joe Tippmann. He goes from right guard to center. He has experience at all 5 positions. Then Schweitzer goes out. Robert Saleh said in terms of McGovern and Wes Schweitzer, they'll know more about those guys tomorrow. And in comes Xavier Newman, elevated from the practice squad yesterday, joined the Jets practice squad just a couple weeks ago after playing 3 games this season for the Tennessee Titans. And Newman starts at right, or he comes in at right guard. Then he ends up playing center for the Jets today. And I've spoke to Max Mitchell post-game, who started at right tackle for the Jets in his second season. And I was like, what do you know about Xavier Newman, just out of curiosity? He said, well, I met him a couple weeks ago, and he's familiar with this Keith Carter style of offense, being in Tennessee in the past last season. So he has some familiarity, at least with the coaching in terms of the position, learning the Nathaniel Hackett offense. And what changes for Max Mitchell, who then played next to Billy Turner, who played at right guard when Newman shifted over to center. Mitchell said, you know what, the only thing I'd try to do is try to communicate a little bit more, which is something that they try to do no matter if it's the starting 5 from week 1 or game in and game out. So Max Mitchell just said the only thing that changes for him is maybe the communication, but he really tries to make it status quo for every game that he plays.
I wonder ultimately if this will have an impact on the way Joe Douglas approaches the trade deadline, Greens, because we've seen multiple teams throughout the National Football League have problems up front along the offensive line. It's not like these guys are growing on trees right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's been a common theme throughout the NFL where people say, like, the lack of depth along every offensive line in the NFL and starting quality or backup quality offensive lineman is scarce. And I do think that this is definitely a position that you need to keep in mind, because when you think about who's hurt for the Jets right now on injured reserve, the only player along that line is Dwayne Brown. And he played left tackle his entire career in the NFL. So if the Jets are looking for some depth, you're right. Maybe the Jets look elsewhere with the trade deadline coming up on Halloween.
Okay, so you've been covering the Jets for 8 seasons now. Was this one of the most wild games you've ever covered?
Absolutely. I feel like this season alone, this season has had multiple games where you're like, what just happened, including week 1 against the Buffalo Bills. But just to give you like my point of view, I'm walking down from the press box, walking around the concourse because the rain is coming down at the time at MetLife, and I'm watching the final 2 plays outside of the concourse, like on the concourse from a TV. Then all of a sudden the field goal goes through. We're in overtime. I'm sprinting to the Jets tunnel and I'm watching the remainder of the game from there. But this is a gritty win for this Jets team. And like Robert Saleh said, they don't ask how you got there. They just ask how many. And the Jets right now sitting at 4-3. They're going to be back here at MetLife Stadium, but as the home team next week against the Chargers. And I think this is the type of win where you skate by, or you scathe by, not the best offensive performance according to the players inside that locker room. They know they can perform better than that, and I think that we'll see a better Zach Wilson and company Monday night against the Los Angeles Chargers.
Good stuff, Greens. Thanks.
Awesome, EA. Appreciate it.
24 punts today in all. Both teams struggled mightily on 3rd down. The Jets 2 of 15, the Giants 2 of 19. But when the Jets had to make plays on 3rd down there in overtime, they got it done.
Here with Thomas Morstead. Thomas, just what was the end of that game like for your perspective being on the sideline?
It was awesome. We hung in there the whole day, and, this has just been a really special team to be a part of because no matter how it goes, guys just keep fighting, and to be depended on in big moments is fun, and it's exciting, and it's one of the things I love about this game. So just really cool experience today.
3 punts inside the 5-yard line. How much do you take pride in being able to pin a team deep like that, and what went into today's strategy?
Yeah, I would love to do it every time. Our defense is really, those guys are coming up to me telling me, don't worry about hitting a touchback, right? Like, be aggressive, try to pin them deep, and if the worst that happens is we hit a touchback, they still got to go 80 yards to score. So it's been fun to kind of be given that permission by coach and by the guys we have out there, and it's just been an amazingly I don't even know how to say how I feel right now. This team has been really, this was my first team after getting released in New Orleans a few years ago, and to be back and to feel just the level of respect from teammates and coaches and to be depended on so heavily this year. We punted a lot. It's just really, really gratifying, and it's an awesome testament to hanging in there. I'm just really grateful to be here.
You kind of touched on it in your answer there, but if you could categorize what this team and what the New York Jets mean to you, how would you put that into words?
I don't know. I know it gets overused. Guys talk about being part of a family, but we really have a really unique crew of people here, players and coaches. And I don't know, I'm just really grateful to be here. And, as you get older, which I'm the old man in the league at my position now, you get closer to the end and it's impossible not to just, things mean so much when you really love it. And I'm like just such a sap right now, but I just can't tell you how grateful I am for Coach Boyer and Coach Salah, Joe Douglas. They kind of took a risk in coming to get me. There's a lot of ways that could look bad on paper, and I just can't. I'm just very grateful.
Awesome, Thomas. Congratulations on the win. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Go Jets.
I'm here for all of that. God bless you, Thomas Morstead.
Yeah.
How about a guy who is embracing everything that's happening right now?
Yeah.
That got me, man.
Definitely.
You're a guy who played in between the white lines.
Yeah, I love that. After these type of wins, you're really emotional. You think about it. You put so much into it. So to come out with a game like this, it comes down to the wire. You may not have performed the way you wanted to. Obviously, he had a great game, but as a team, it wasn't what you wanted to put out there. But it feels so good. It's so much of a relief to get out there. And sometimes that relief shows in tears. Sometimes that relief shows in all types of different things. So, it's cool to see him, express himself in that way and really be grateful for the experience that he's having right now.
All right, AB, I want to get your thoughts. You don't talk about the punters too often. Thomas Morstead today, 11 punts. He averaged 48.1 yards per punt. He had a long of 56, 4 inside the 20, 3 inside the 5-yard line.
Yeah, listen, I had to go through a box of tissues during the game. Now I had to grab another box for that interview right there. Look, yeah, he deserves a steak dinner by the offense and the defense, because think about what the Giants offense had, or the ability of what they could do. They couldn't do anything in the pass game because they didn't have one. And the reason why is you didn't want to throw a pass because you're pinned back so deep. So those kicks are huge. To put somebody back around that 5-yard line, I think he did it 3 times in the game. And you talked about all those other good punts that he had. It really did set the tone on what the Giants' risk level was offensively. And, we knew they were going to be obviously one-dimensional, but they really truly went one-dimensional for the whole last 2 quarters of the football game, almost to the point where they felt like, you know what, we're just going to run it on 3rd and 7 and punt because we feel like our defense is doing enough. Doesn't matter what the Jets offense does. So they had confidence in what they were doing and being one-dimensional. But for Morstead to come up big like that, you never know how nice it is to have it, until you need it. And then they really came up big, and he did a hell of a job today, pinning that ball back there and really keeping the clamps on what the Giants maybe wanted to do a little bit more but couldn't because where they were pinned back at.
What a luxury it is to have Thomas Morstead and Greg Zuerlein. Zuerlein ends this thing in overtime. The Jets are 4-3. It is time for report cards. Let's start with you, Quincy.
Oh, okay. First today. Let's get it. So let's see. Offense, I'm going to C-. I wasn't too happy, at least from what I saw. I'm looking forward to getting a chance to watch the real film. But from what I saw, the guys weren't getting open. I can specifically remember a 3rd-and-1 pass to Conklin. He had a one-on-one coverage. He knew it was him against the guy to make sure he got that completion and was not able to get open. Multiple other times, there were guys just not performing. There was drops as well. So offensively, the guys didn't perform well. Zach Wilson will get majority of the heat for this game, and as he should, he's the starting quarterback. But the rest of the offense didn't show up. I even saw, actually, the big ticket made a tweet out saying he didn't play well. Breece Hall said he didn't play well. So I'm glad that these guys are taking, a lot of the heat away, because if you really understand it, the whole offense didn't really perform well for this team. So C-. For the defense, I went with a B+. I went with a B+. I maybe could have gotten higher. I felt like the win bumped me up to a B+ because ultimately I felt like they gave a little bit too much to Saquon. Saquon was their only weapon. 36 carries. He was their only weapon, and they gave up a lot to him. But ultimately, week in and week out, we talk about this defense being bend but don't break, and they did that again. So, I have to kind of shift the way that I see this defense. I would love for them to be just shut out, don't allow anything. But this defense isn't built that way. They don't go out, and that's not their scheme. They want to make sure that they are at least not giving up big plays, and that's what they do. And so I gave them a B+. In special teams, I gave those guys a B+. So, Thomas Morstead, if I could do my grade over, I sent my grade in before I saw your interview, man. But I'm giving you guys a B+, mainly because of silly penalties. Man, that one killed me. There was a penalty there that just completely shifted the way that I felt. If I could just grade Thomas Morstead, if I could just grade Greg Zuerlein, it would probably be A+, right? They performed really well. They did exactly what they needed to do. But it's special teams as a whole. And on top of that, there were a couple times, I just want to make this one last note, there were a couple times when Morstead did get a chance to kick it to the punt returner, and the Gunners were not there. Obviously we have injuries there, but it's next man up every time, and those Gunners have to be able to get off the double team, whatever the case may be, and get down and limit the returner.
AB, how about yourself?
Yeah, I go the same way on offense, so I'm going to go with the C-. Guys, it was a tragedy today watching some of this go down. 3rd down was atrocious in this football game. And Coach Saleh, I agree with what he said. Everybody's got their place on why it didn't work. From Zach Wilson to the guys blocking, to the tight ends missing blocks on 3rd downs, to the drop footballs by the running backs, to the bad throws in the short yardage game, to the running backs. Everybody takes their hit, and the play caller is in that as well. So they got to figure that one out. Really not had an identity for this football team in this game. How do you not rush the ball effectively in this football game and just have some variety of something that gets Breece Hall somewhere outside of just condensing the box and try to pound mud through the offensive line? The pass game came alive in spurts. Zach Wilson was up and down in this game. There's some passes, guys, you're just like, man, that's really nice. Then there's some you're like, man, that's, but man, he didn't have a lot of time. There wasn't a lot of, there were a lot of times where it got rushed because of late calls getting come in as well. You saw some frustration there. But when you needed it most, he made 2 big plays at the end of the game. That counts for something. There's a lot to get better on, man. There's a lot to improve upon, and they have to do that heading into next week. Something's got to give because this team's got to find something. The last thing I'll say about the offense, only 1 catch for a tight end. If you're going to go 13 personnel several times in a game, the tight ends, especially in the rain, you got to have them get the ball. It's the easiest guy to get the football to. 1 catch, it boggles my mind. So a C-, it's just not good enough. Now, defensively, you're probably going to say, wow, C+, how's that possible? Yep, no question. The passing yards were atrocious for the Giants. They held them down. But this was a one-dimensional team and they gave up 200 yards rushing.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for me, guys, that I got to penalize the defense on is the tragic penalties that they had that really could ultimately have had cost them. 2 personal fouls on Quincy Williams. One of them was part of the scoring drive. The other one, they missed the field goal. You got very lucky in that situation. You had the offsides penalty on the punt game, which I'm going to count that as a defense because, Clemens is a defensive player. He's standing right next to the ball, and they're not going to try to rush that guy. It's punt safe. He jumps off sides and gives up a crucial first down that pulls the clock down. And, of course, JJ on that hit on the quarterback. Those guys were tragic, and that's got to come down a full grade, in my opinion, for the defense. So that's what I get. And the special teams, man, I'll be honest with you, being that I didn't count that penalty, A+. The punting was fantastic. Morstead saved the day today for really both sides of the football and kept this to the point where the Giants didn't trust to do anything offensively except when they were able to run the football. And then from your field goal kicker to kind of really not have a chance throughout the whole game in the rain, standing on the sideline and being ready to tie the game up and also win the game takes a lot of credit, the long snapper as well. So, again, guys, just not the best football all the way around, but sometimes those one phases that you don't think can get it done and make a difference, special teams came up big for this football team today.
All right, somebody gave me green apple because I'm going to be a little bit nicer to the offense. I'm going B-. Yes, 2 of 15 on third down. But the reason why I'm going B- is Garrett Wilson. He's a dog. He gets it done. 7 catches, 100 yards. Breece Hall is a threat anytime he touches the ball. He gets a 50-yard touchdown. And the bottom line is when they had to, the Jets got it done with those drives at the end of the fourth quarter and then in overtime. So I'm going to give them a B-. Defensively, this squad has high standards. A B, over 200 rush yards on the ground. The penalties the guys mentioned on Quincy Williams, Jermaine Johnson as well. That preceded DeVito's touchdown. But again, they gave up 10 points today. Anytime you give up 10 points in the National Football League, it's a winning effort. That's a B. Special teams, B+. Morstead was incredible. Greg Zuerlein was fantastic. Are we going to put – there we go. Zuerlein, of course, with the game-tying field goal at the end of the fourth quarter, and then also the winner in overtime. But as Quincy mentioned before, thought that the Jets could be better in their coverage, their punt coverage. They were missing Irv Charles today and Justin Hardy as well. But one guy who got it done for the Jets at the end of the game was Zach Wilson, the voice of the Jets. Bob Wischusen talked to him after the game.
Zach, you just said before we came on that was ugly, but it's an ugly win and not an ugly loss. So how about this locker room reacting to a win that, honestly, from upstairs, it was hard to understand how you guys were able to pull that off?
Yeah, like I said, winning is all that matters. The absolute grit, from this team, the ability to come back, never quit. Especially as an offense, not playing well as an offense. The first 2-minute drill, I get sacked, and then I get sacked on the fourth down. Plays that can't happen, and then we get 23 seconds, 24 seconds, and we're able to go in 2 plays all the way, get us in field goal range and go. So the absolute no quit from those guys, and obviously you got to give the defense credit. We need to be better for them. We need to be more consistent for them. They're absolutely balling out, playing awesome football. Special teams is playing awesome football, and we need to find a way to be better offensively.
How about your offensive line, though, and how those guys hung in there, considering you were down to your 4th-string center today? Had you guys ever even shared a center exchange in practice before all of a sudden you had to go out there and do it in the game?
We haven't, man, and, props to X for stepping up. First Wes moves in at center, we bring Billy in, and then X is, in that center, and Billy's at right guard, and, we're playing musical chairs with these guys, but those guys definitely stepped up and played the best they absolutely could, fighting their tails off, and a lot of props to those guys up front because that's not easy to do.
For you personally, I know it was a struggle, but somewhat similar to the end of the Denver game. Even with an entire game filled with struggle, you rip a couple of throws at the end of the game that help you win it. What does that do for you?
Yeah, that's. I kind of look at it like I got to be that one at the end of the game that has to find a way. There's not going to be a lot of things open on schedule. There's not going to be
anything that's easy or simple there at the end. You know, the defensive line is teeing off, so quarterback's job is to try and find a way to make the big plays there at the end. And Allen did an unbelievable job of coming out of his route on that scramble drill and finding him there. And then, you know, the ability to clock it with 11 seconds was unbelievable. So,
Thanks for the time. Enjoy the win.
yeah, thank you.
We're watching Jets Overtime. Eric Allen here with Quincy Enunwa in the studio, and we're joined as always by Anthony Beck. How about the play by Alan Lazard at the end of the fourth quarter where he did get tackled? Because if he tries to extend that play, the Jets don't get the field goal off because they go spike the ball, and Zerline comes on with 1 second on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, you know, looking back, it probably should have been a catch and drop. You know, I'm glad that they were able to get to 1 second, but, you know, I'm sure they're going to talk about this in the film review, you know, tomorrow, but he should have caught it and immediately fell down. It kind of looked like he wanted to make a couple plays and then got tackled. So thankfully, they had 1 second left, but that's something that they'll probably have to, you know, go over going forward. You know, that's one of those ones where you catch it and immediately go down and you'll have more time. Because those 5 yards don't really matter to a guy like Greg Zuerlein.
And AB, before we get to socially speaking here, you're saying yes. The head coach of the St. Louis Battlehawks agrees.
These are situations you think of immediately when he caught it.
Yep.
I got a little nervous. I don't know. He was trying to run for the ball. In that situation, Quincy hits the nail on the head. Catch ball, slide, you give yourself up. Yeah. Now the ref comes and gets the ball, sets it, and you go. By taking those, if he were to have broken that tackle, he would have been a sick guy right now. So the tackle helped. The Giants, I would have just let the guy kind of float around and let him stand up. Poor playing on their side as well. They got to understand the situation. In those moments, you're like, how do you even think of that? But, hey, those are things you got to think about. But, hey, the Jets were able to get it down, get the snap. Again, very, very tight at the end, especially when I talked about earlier in the show when Newman grabbed the football, tried to set it, but the official has to grab it, reset it. Man, that, you know, very fortunate, but they got it off.
Fascinating. Situational football. You got to take care of business. And the difference between winning and losing in the National Football League is such a fine line. Okay, let's get to socially speaking. I want to get some reactions from both of you guys. There we go. We run New York.
Standing on business.
Oh, yeah. You like that one, Q?
Yeah, that's going around right now. Deserves all
Thomas Morstead deserves all the love. Yeah, all the feels, no doubt. We're sending T. Morstead. Jets fans reacting to the overtime win.
Sunday Night Football.
A bit of shock.
Oh, this was a good one. They're so fast with it because that video just dropped, too. So they already were ready with this.
Nice job by the Jets social team.
Yeah. They might be the best in the league.
Greg's kick is good. Jets win. That's the bottom line here, fellas. Yep. Jets win. Anthony was quiet during that segment. I don't know if he saw any of them.
No Willie Joes there. I saw them. Yeah, I was looking for those, you know, those ones that are on the cusp of crossing the line, but we didn't get to those yet.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Probably during the night, and maybe we'll throw them up there for pregame central next week, Monday Night Football. Hopefully, we are outside at MetLife Stadium. Jets, Chargers. Game ball. Anthony, starting with you.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit diamond in the rough here with two guys. First, Xavier Newman. You know, quite frankly, it is tough, guys, to be in the scenario that he was in, okay, to come on there, to actually snap a ball for the first time ever with Zach Wilson, and they fumbled and bounced back and really do a decent job to finish that game, man. Kudos to that kid. I can imagine his nerves, you know, worried about every snap after that. He had a little bit of a high snap on the shotgun deal. Just I give him a lot of credit. And, you know, look, he may have to move forward and continue to play. And if that's the case, you know, he's going to get a little better. But, man, just a big-time opportunity for that kid to jump in there and just be prepared, to go the right way in protection. All of those things, man. It's not easy when you take 0 reps the entire week. 0, guys, 0. He was running the offense for the Giants all week long. Okay, and the other guy, I'm going to go Will McDonald. You're probably thinking, why Will McDonald? I don't know if you watched that Giants last field goal to put them up by 6 points.
Oh, yeah.
Will McDonald jumps over the offensive line and truly is the reason why Gano got nervous and pulled that kick to the left. Will jumps over, gets his hands up. He sees his body and his peripheral vision coming at him. I promise you, if Will McDonald did not do that and it was clean, that ball was going right through the uprights. and we would not have had an opportunity to win that football game. So 2 hidden gems, guys, for me that came up big that nobody's going to talk about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a good
I
one.
like it. He watched film of Myles Garrett from last week, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And no surprise there with Will McDonald because he was jumping cars the last time we saw him in the offseason.
Right, yeah, beast.
How about you, Q?
I'm going with the obvious one, Garrett Wilson. You know, as a receiver, I got to give my props. You know, 2 claps to the guy. He's a talented receiver, wide receiver 1. He shows up every week. You know, he makes contested catches. And, you know, one thing I kind of like about him, there's a guy that used to play, Antonio Brown. He was a hell of a body catcher. Antonio made some catches that were, you know, really difficult to make. Body catching is one of those things where you see a lot of guys make it when they're not confident. But these guys, him and Garrett Wilson and Antonio Brown, they make it even when they're confident. They make these body catches like that one right there that we just showed that are not easy to make and continue to do it over and over again. It's not one of those things where it bounces off their chest. They still know how to catch the ball in their body that it looks the same way that you would if you were catching it with their hands. They're just talented receivers. They know they have great ball skills. I mean, there's a knowledge of where the ball is coming and how to kind of put your body that they know innately. There's nothing that they need to think about. It just happens naturally for them. And so, you know, this is my game ball guy, 100 yards today.
I'm going with Thomas Morstead. We heard from him with Ethan Greenberg after the game. Awfully emotional. He's been tremendous the entire year. He should be an all-pro. He should be a Pro Bowler. This game had the most punts in the National Football League in over 20 years. And Morstead had 11 of those punts. And the field position battle is huge when you're not scoring offensively. The Jets limited to 10 points there in regulation before getting it done in overtime. 4 of those punts inside the 20, 3 inside the 5-yard line. Morstead gets a game ball. Punters are football players, too. Okay, fellas, final thoughts. Starting with you, AB. Jets are 4-3. They finally secure a victory after the bye, a 3rd consecutive win. It wasn't pretty. It don't matter.
Yeah, I can imagine they're not going to be pretty moving forward. But, guys, to be 4-3 going into an extended week after you just had a bye, now you play on Monday night. Again, there's a lot to get better at. I love games where you win ugly, and there's a lot to get better from the film so that coaches can coach you up pretty hard even after a win. So there's no room for complacency. I think they got a great opportunity here. You look at these teams that they're playing. I mean, if you can get to the Bills and win 2 more games, I don't know if the Bills are the most confident team playing against the Jets over the last 2.5 years. So, again, you're 4-3. Figure out a way to get better. That's everybody's job right now. I think they can find a way because there's a lot of room for it. But you're in a really good situation. You're right where you want to be. And you're still playing, again, meaningful games. It's still early. You're not quite at the halfway point. But, man, every game matters now because it's a little bit closer to where you are in your division.
Good stuff today. Happy Halloween to you, AB, you and your family. And congratulations to the Beck family. Rocco Beck leading Iowa State to another victory on Saturday, Q. The Iowa State Cyclones are 4-1 in conference, but the New York Jets 4-3. And what a rebound it really has been for this team and this organization. 1-3, left for dead. I go back to that point against the Kansas City Chiefs where the Jets had just lost the New England Patriots in a real ugly game.
Yeah.
When they were down 17-0 early. And then they rallied. They ended up losing that game. But since then, after a 23-20 loss to the Chiefs, the Jets won in Denver. They beat the Philadelphia Eagles at home. Now, as the away team at MetLife Stadium, they took care of business against the Giants. I mean, they found a way. There's something to be said for teams that find a way to win.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm going to keep it brief. I think ultimately every team, the challenge is neutralizing the other team's quarterback. And the Jets know how to do that with respect to Tyrod Taylor because, you know, I don't like to make fun of injuries. But ultimately, the Jets know how to do that. And if you can keep yourself in the game by making sure that the other team's quarterback isn't beating you, then all the offense has to do is just continue to improve. And they won this game without playing well, so they need to just remember that they have the ability to win even when they're not playing at their best. Just continue to keep that going throughout the season.
Yeah, and we'll have to see the updates on all the injuries up front along the offensive line. The trade deadline is Tuesday. We'll have to see what happens, not only with the Jets, but throughout the National Football League. But the bottom line is paint the city green tonight. The New York Jets are 4-3, and the New York Giants, they go home losers tonight.